getting that constant hit of dopamine that our brain really craves.
And the elderly population again suddenly sees a huge rise in the kind of content that they're taking in.
I'm feeling fatigued all day. I have pain in my legs and my calf.
And how we can take steps to avoid that taking place in our own lives.
This is in fact addiction.
From that also you can get a lot of dopamine. You can get a lot of these kind of, similar feelings of happiness.
It's very important that we are setting the right example for the next generation.
Hi everyone, welcome back to The Wellness Blueprint, a podcast by The Wellness Co, where we break down wellness to make it more real, simple, and easy to understand for everyone out there. Today, we're going to be talking about something that I think all of our viewers can relate to, which is digital burnout and the concept of a dopamine detox. Now, when we think about a digital burnout, I think that's something that most people today who are connected to technology and have a relationship with technology in any way, whether that's through their smartphones and through their work and through their social lives, have a strong kind of relatability or a strong element of social media and entertainment content in their lives on a minute-to-minute basis. And it's something that can be looked at in many ways being a functional task, something that's necessary, like checking our emails constantly and checking our social media notifications, versus things that are also, let's say, negative in our lives, like doom scrolling and being on social media for hours and hours on end, or going through video after video without pausing and getting that constant hit of dopamine that our brain really craves. So today I'm joined by Dr. Garima and Dr. Devjani, who are going to help us break down what digital burnout is and how we can take steps to avoid that taking place in our own lives and choose healthier alternatives or healthy habits instead. Now, I think a lot of us probably would be asking ourselves a question, something similar to the lines of how many times do we, let's say, close Instagram and then reopen it within a minute? How many times do we just check WhatsApp meticulously as a kind of, fidgeting behavior as well that we see in a lot of people? And these are the kind of triggers that are precursors to also having social media and technology negatively impact our lives. Because as the doctors can, of course, talk about further, is we see a lot of people who come into the Wellness Co who at night are not able to get proper rest, or in the morning wake up feeling really groggy and really dizzy and not necessarily well-oriented or well-focused. It's because we have so much blue light exposure. It's because we're on our phones through the hours of the night and not able to kind of, get away from those quick hits and actually get into more of a restful mode, right? So I'll let Dr. Garima maybe shed a little bit of more of a light on the kind of profiles of people that we see coming in and what are some things that they can start to do to get away from those unhealthy habits.
All right. So you very rightly mentioned that we're constantly surrounded by digital media. We get people from all age groups who are differently associated and influenced by digital media. Younger populations are obviously consuming it at a much larger scale. When you look at middle-aged people, their content might vary, but their time durations are heavily dependent on their working hours or what kind of profession they're in. And the elderly population, again, suddenly sees a huge rise in the kind of content that they're taking in. Now, that being said, it is extremely important to first understand why this is a problem. This is a problem because this is, in fact, addiction. All small peaks or every notification ping is going to spike my dopamine level, which is why over a period of time, my brain is going to learn these patterns and then start running into an autopilot. So this is why when you mentioned that, people are just randomly reaching out for their phones when they don't have anything else to do or just scrolling, this is when it becomes a problem, when the body or the brain starts rewiring and running into an autopilot wherein there is a huge dependency on all of these appliances. That being said, every time that I get a person who tells me that they've not been sleeping well or the sleep is always interrupted or they feel very tired, especially when they wake up, or they feel extremely groggy by the mid of the day, or evenings aren't really about unwinding, but it's really about just catching up with different things. This is a major problem that they face, that they're not really able to cut down on these habits. And the easiest way to strike the balance to begin with is to note down the time that you're actually investing on social media, wherein you can actually check it through the apps and what was the screen time for each of those apps to ensure that all of these things are actually kept under check.
I think that that's really good advice for anyone out there who is struggling with these kind of physical symptoms, right? Because when we talk about how this shows up in our kind of day-to-day lives, it is something which is physically manifesting as well. People are feeling these emotions or feeling these kind of, different types of, let's say, symptoms and issues in their day-to-day lifestyles. And it's caused by something like a dopamine overload, something like having too much screen time and not striking that right balance. So I think starting to track and measure how much time you're spending and whether or not it's cutting into your sleep and it's becoming problematic is very important, especially like you mentioned, for not just for younger people, but even for older people who might be, let's say, on the phone a lot, right? And they're just, even if they're just talking on the phone a lot, even if they're just kind of connected to technology a lot or binge watching even, their favorite series or their favorite content, it is something that can become unhealthy quite quickly.
Absolutely. And I just want to add one small thing. It's not, you don't stop at one thing. Even if you're binge watching a series, a lot of people will tell you that they have also been scrolling on Instagram while they're watching that series, because you'll always keep wanting more and more of this. So the whole idea is to ensure that you are mindfully putting in the right kind of steps and efforts to reduce all of this from occurring.
So I think we've spoken about how a dopamine overload and digital kind of exposure can show up in many kind of physical ways as well. We talked about some of the symptoms and some of the things that people go through. So I think maybe it'll be useful now for us to go through a couple of examples of, let's say, daily routines and daily habits that people might have and how they can start to address those through physical interventions, whether that's lifestyle, whether that's therapeutic, and whether it's kind of advice that they can get from a doctor and a medical professional. So, Dr. Devjani, if you could just help us out with a couple of things that people can, look out for, and what kind of routines that you see amongst our clients and patients who are coming in.
Typically, for a person who is walking into the clinic, it is actually something that is there constantly in the day, but we see the slumps happening first with early morning. When they wake up, they feel that they are groggy, they have not slept well, though they have slept around 8 to 9 hours, as they claim. And typically the person says that I'm feeling fatigued all day. I have pain in my legs and my calf. I feel that I have burden on my shoulder and I'm not feeling good. They have brain fog, and it is happening across it's not restricted to a particular age group. And similarly, something like this happens post lunch. They feel that they are having a slump. A similar event happens around 4:35 where they're having a slum again. And since most of the people who are into a lot of social media sleep very late at night, and this is something that is not so common, but in the evenings, they do have that kind of a feeling where they have a craving that they need to go back to what they were doing.
Sure.
Symptoms are pretty much same throughout the day, where the engagement is mainly towards the phone or the TV or whatever is actually they're craving for. But there is nothing specific that actually tells you that this is what it is, but basically the cause of the same reason.
Sure. I think it's important to identify that the markers for the kind of things that we're looking out for with regards to, needing to go through a digital detox, it's subtle, it's nuanced. There are things that people might be feeling that, they start to identify as being very normal parts of their daily life as well, right?
It actually has to be sorted out separately, because a person will never know that they are addicted to it. It's from a third person's view. When a person comes to the clinic and they talk about it, they are talking about it as if it's something that is required, and they are wired in that way. And once we suggest that this is what it is, and you can check the screen time that you have been using, then they realize, oh my God, okay, it is high. Yeah. A natural and a good lifestyle, which we would have done before, doing through generations, is what is actually recommended. A good diet, a healthy lifestyle in terms of having some workouts, something to do with having enough hydration. There are multiple therapies if a normal lifestyle change is not enough. At Wellness Co, we have therapies like red light, for far infrared, WBCs, HBOT, the things we were talking about. All of these therapies actually help person get out of such a dopamine detox.
I understand. I think one thing which we look at with a lot of people is that a lot of our clients and people who come to us, they feel that they're otherwise very healthy. They feel in a lot of cases that, they feel in a lot of cases that, they are people who work out, they're people who take care of themselves, they might eat pretty healthy, and they, in a general sense, feel that they are passionate about their health and fitness, right? But this could be one of the things that's holding them back. This could be one of the factors where, they are, let's say, getting too much screen time. They're not necessarily making the right choices in terms of, going to bed at the right hours, and also having good wind down and wake up routines that don't include, let's say, checking your phone within the first 10-15 minutes of waking up, that don't include, let's say, being on your phone, or being exactly, before you go off to sleep. So these are things that I think, tell people to look out for, because if they are struggling with certain issues or certain symptoms, these could be the reasons why.
Absolutely agree.
Yes. So, Dr. Garima, as we kind of, look at another example, with regards to people feeling low energy, this is something which we see a lot. This is very common. Yeah. People are these days very fatigued and generally feel that, like day by day, they become like a little bit more and more fatigued, which is why the brain starts craving going on vacation and wanting to kind of take a break from the everyday routines. How can people kind of recover their energy levels or do things within their kind of, natural and normal lifestyle to help themselves?
Right. So I think the moment you start is from the morning itself. As you mentioned, that people are actually, they shouldn't be checking their phones in the first 15 minutes of waking up. And that's very true. This is your time wherein you try to get some sun, you try to move around a little. This is wherein you start your body's engine and not just look into your phones to see or check for the updates. If people can incorporate this first small change into their lifestyles, that's also going to go a huge way. So a clear sign that you might be dealing with this is if you wake up tired, or you feel that you're snoozing the alarm every 3 to 4 times, or maybe you feel that you can't think straight the moment you've woken up. You don't want to socialize or even talk to anybody. You just want to be your own person in your own zone, and you're not even able to pace up the things even if you're getting late. Then these are your signs that you've woken up tired. And this is a reflection of two things: the quantity of the sleep, the number of hours you've slept, and the quality of the sleep, both of which are actually directly influenced by your digital time. If a person is using a lot of it, they're sleeping late. And because of the increased blue light exposure, they are also having lesser melatonin production that ensures that they have sound sleep. Now, in order to combat that, one of the rituals that they can have probably around the evening is to cut down on the time that they're spending on their screens and ensure that this time is religiously spent in unwinding rituals. So spend time with your family, cook yourself a meal, read a book, dim the lights, ensure that you're in a safe and a warm space wherein your body is rewiring itself to put an end to this day and just relax. And that goes a long way. If we were to include therapies like whole body cryotherapy is a great addition in the morning, because this automatically increases my energy levels and it increases the amount of happy hormones in my body. But if you want to look at therapies that you might want to use around the evenings, these are going to be therapies such as Far Infrared Sauna, which is seen to reduce the anxiety levels or the stress levels by almost 58%. And even therapies like red light therapy that are going to help synchronize your circadian rhythm and improve melatonin production, which is a necessity for sleep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think very well said. I think these routines, especially as Dr. Devjani also mentioned, and I think we've been talking about, are very important to ensure that you can kind of put your brain also in the right kind of frame, right? Like you can take care of your brain, you can take care of your body, because like we were talking about, when a person is on vacation, for example, right, they might actually make better choices. They're actually making healthier choices. They're being very present in the moment that they are. They don't wake up stressed. They don't go to bed stressed. They're not kind of, bombarded with all these kind of thoughts and all this, external dopamine like we're talking about. So choosing to engage in similar behaviors during your day-to-day life when you're, let's say, at work or in your kind of, normal routines, it's going to be very important to ensure that you have consistency and you can maintain that kind of peak form that you want to be in for the longest possible time, right? So I think another example of people that really kind of come to us, they feel a lot of bodily fatigue as well as a result of these parameters, as a result of not getting good sleep, having distractions, having kind of, problems. You start to see people who come in with a lot of leg pain or a lot of fatigue and heaviness. So how do we kind of deal with that? If maybe you could shed a little bit of light.
Typically, we look into the nutrient requirement, because most of the time if a person is not sleeping well, that actually also hinders the absorption. So we look into our diagnosis and check if that is the reason. We try to supplement with IV if required. Of course, there is no replacement for a healthy meal. And if that sorts it out, then that's good. But of those, the most important thing that I'll feel is the person wanting to get off this dopamine requirement.
Sure.
Dopamine is like money, and you can never have enough. Mm-hmm. And if you have this tendency of wanting more, it will just be like that. So if one actually wants to detox, they can detox.
Absolutely. And I think for me, as if I was to use my own personal example, I think I have found a lot of joy in playing sports all my life and doing active things rather than, being connected to the digital world 24/7, even though I am required to be connected to it quite a bit. So I think that's another thing that people can really look into is, join something active as a kind of, social sport or a social activity.
Separate time for your social media if required, and make sure that it's timed.
Exactly. Because, from that also you can get a lot of dopamine. You can get a lot of these kind of, similar feelings of happiness. It's a happy hormone, as Dr. Karma mentioned. Exactly. The best way to get it.
Also, it's very important that we are setting the right example for the next generation. If the mother or the father is always on the phone, the kid will also get influenced with the same thing. So it's better that we actually switch it off and actually spend the time with the kid instead.
Sure. I think that's very well said, because a lot of people who are, let's say, in their 30s, in their 40s and 50s, they are also developing a lot of these similar problems. People are so active on their kind of WhatsApp groups and other group chats and on kind of, just watching content all day long, that they might forget, to do the things that are actually important and to be present with the close ones that they have, or participate in the hobbies that they truly enjoy as well. That's another thing that we see a lot, is people kind of get distracted, and then it becomes easier and easier to get away from healthier choices. Yes, absolutely. So I think we've talked a lot about all the things that someone can do and someone can maybe look at if in case they're struggling with these symptoms, and maybe the reason could be that they have too much screen time in their lives and that they're facing a digital burnout. So I think if Dr. Garma, if you can just help us kind of close off with a little bit of what the Wellness Co can kind of, help people with in terms of our philosophy and how we look at helping someone holistically.
Absolutely. So whenever we're talking about digital detox affecting your life, I often see a lot of people are actually just working with crash detoxes or just quick fixes wherein they'll just remove that app altogether. But the problem with that is you'll always relapse. You'll always come back to Instagram. You'll always come back to Twitter, so on and so forth. So at the Wellness Co, what we're trying to do is we're working with solutions that are more long-lasting, sustainable, and based on your body's and brain's requirement. The whole idea is to rewire your brain and reset your body systems. So when a person walks in and they have XYZ complaints, you can't just easily pinpoint that probably this is your digital time that's affecting you. It's this information is actually gotten after a very thorough consult, and only once we understand that all of these things can be influencing their symptoms, which could be energy related, it could be brain functioning related, so on and so forth. That's when we step in to make sure that we're utilizing the right kind of therapies to probably push what we want more of, or certain recommendations which will reduce their problems. So for example, if a person tells me that they have been having brain fog, of course my recommendations are going to revolve around sleep hygiene and reducing blue screen time. But I might also add hyperbaric oxygen therapy sessions for them to ensure that now the brain's also healing while they're learning to rewire themselves. Similarly, if a person tells me that falling asleep or the sleep quality has taken a toll, then red light therapy, pulse electromagnetic field therapy, or far infrared saunas are the best additions to their routine. Lastly, if a person walks in with deficiency, as you mentioned, working with IVs goes a long way, especially when a person is being given B vitamins, which is something that they're extremely deficient. Most of the people are deficient in, or magnesium, which is going to help improve their mental health and cognitive function as well. Lastly, when digital media is your main source of entertainment, physical activity takes a huge toll. And this doesn't just mean that a person is going to start gaining weight, but this means smaller problems that are going to occur first. Fluid buildup, them having tension all throughout their body, burning aches or pains in their calves. And in order to reduce these, what we can do is work with compression therapies or active exercise recommendations with EMS training or Pilates, wherein the body is moving again while we're also removing any kind of fluid buildup or metabolites from sitting in one place.
Absolutely. I think that's really important because for a lot of people who we have seen suffering from similar issues, movement starts to play a big role for them because they might be people who are, let's say, due to their work constraints and due to their professional obligations, personal obligations, not very active in their daily lives. And to fill that time, to fill that void of that dopamine which they're not getting, which their brain is not naturally receiving because their cognition is becoming slowed down because of all this exposure that they're having, it becomes really important for them to engage in these movements and also having something like a hyperbaric oxygen therapy, like you mentioned, to improve their brain function or to get them let's say, a little bit of a jump start or a kick start into the right frame of mind, into the right mentality, and reinforcing that with more kind of, positive encouragement and motivation, which they will start to see themselves. And we have seen people within a few weeks have major improvements and kind of already noting and giving their feedback of feeling a lot better, being able to concentrate and focus more. So these are the kind of outcomes that we're really looking for. So thank you very much to Dr. Garima and to Dr. Devjani for being here today. I think anyone who might be suffering from similar kind of conditions, similar symptoms or issues or problems, I highly encourage them to book a consultation with our eminent doctors here at the Wellness Go as soon as possible. And we hope to see you very soon. Thank you so much.